Please, kindly take note of this. I would like everybody to stay muted as we have the session. When you want to talk or when it's time for any form of interaction, you'll be updated on that and do that. Thank you. So you are all welcome once again to the Early Career Pharmaceutical Group Ghana engagement with the World Bank Group webinar. So to get right into the program, our 3 core objectives of this event is to let's kindly mute. All right. Is to explore the global health priorities from the perspective of the World Bank Group, focusing on strengthening health systems, pharmaceutical governance, and universal health coverage. Also, one main objective of this event or this webinar is to understand the key competencies and career pathways for pharmacists and health professionals seeking opportunities within international development organizations like the World Bank, WHO, and other global institutions. And lastly, to create a platform for direct engagement between ECPG members and a global health expert, fostering mentorship, knowledge, exchange, and international collaboration. My name is Josephine Yosdaisy, and I'm going to be your moderator for this webinar. So just a little bit of an interaction part. I'd like to find out your expectations to this webinar, just a few. If you are ready to say something, you can just raise your hand and I'll call you. What do you expect from this audience, from this session? Emmanuel Sabonso, are you there? Okay.
Yes, Josephine, I'm here. Thank you very much.
Just direct to you. What do you expect from this session? What's your expectation? Yeah, tell me about it.
So I'm expecting to understand the key competencies and career pathways for pharmacists and healthcare professionals who are seeking opportunities within the international development, especially the World Bank and the WHO, to be precise. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mami, if you are there, can you tell me what you expect from this webinar? Okay. All right. Okay, she just made me understand that she's facing a technical problem, so let's just go right into the event. So I'm going to briefly introduce the ECPG executives here with us so that we know they are present here with us. Okay, so I'm going to start with the chairperson, the ECPG chairperson, Reginald Situ Brown. The vice chairperson is here with us as well, Derek Kweku. The executive secretary is also here with us, Miss Marilyn Ichia Ejiku. The organizing secretary is also here with us, Jonas Bekwe. The general secretary is also here with us, Abina Riafe Owusu Ansa. The financial secretary is also here with us, Emmanuel Sapon. And lastly, but not the least, the communications officer is also here with us, Mr. Owusu Senya. Thank you. Okay, so not to keep anyone waiting, just go right into the main reason. Sorry, and the advocacy lead, Mr. Andrew Annan, is also here with us. So not to waste much more time, let's go right into the main agenda for this webinar. So I would introduce Mr. Emmanuel Sabonso, the pharmacist, to kindly introduce our speaker for this webinar. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ms. Josephine. My name is Emmanuel Sabonsu, and I'm here to introduce our speaker for today, who is Dr. Andreas Seiter. So Dr. Andreas Seiter is a German national and a income countries on policies to improve access to healthcare. So some of his key areas of expertise are pharmaceutical policy and engaging the private sector for better health outcomes. He retired in August 2022 as a global lead for private sector at the World Bank's Health, Nutrition and Population Global Practice. His role was to work with World Bank teams and clients to strengthen private sector participation in the pursuit of universal health coverage. Dr. Andreas Seiter joined the World Bank in 2004 and worked on projects in more than 40 countries in all regions. And before joining the World Bank, he was with Novartis, which is a leading pharmaceutical company where he spent 18 years in various positions in medical affairs, marketing, global policy, and communications. Yeah. So we are truly privileged to learn from him today as we explore the intersection of global health, pharmaceutical policy, national development. Thank you very much. Dr. Andreas Seiter, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction, helping me understand who you are, what your expectations are. I hope you can all hear me well. Is this the case?
Yes, we can.
Good, excellent. So when I'm listening to you, the goals from your side for this meeting, I figure I shouldn't give you a very lengthy introduction as to what the World Bank is, but I think a little bit, a few highlights and a few examples might be useful, because I'm guessing among the how many do we have now? Over 40 or 40 people that are listening. Not all of you really have a clear understanding of this big institution, and even for insiders, you can work there for 10 years and you're still discovering things that you haven't known before. So if you allow me, then I'm just giving a short introduction, and I'm actually using published data. So I'm using a presentation that was given by people in the World Bank when they were actually trying to sell bonds. And I'm using the World Bank website, which then also shows you where you can go and where you can dig for more information, because I'm guessing we have probably about an hour or maybe a little bit longer. So there will be a lot of questions that I cannot answer in this time. And then I want to make time for question and answer. And I will certainly also cover the question of careers and so on. So if you allow me to share screen, let me see what that does here. I have so many windows open. Let me try this one. So I hope you can see a slide that says World Bank Group.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So when we're talking World Bank Group, we mean an organization that includes the World Bank. These are the two blue sections on the left, IBRD and IDA, plus IFC, which is the private sector arm, and then MIGA, and this thing which I can't see right now on my ICSID, which is very, is a very small technical entity. So focusing on the three on the left side, which is where most of the action is happening. The World Bank is a multilateral development bank and is financing. we have to make sure that everybody's muted, otherwise I'm getting an echo. Is financing basically from two pots of money. Yeah? So when you look at IBRD and IDA, both basically is the same people, the same offices, the same buildings, the same processes and rules and guidelines, the same project papers. It's just a different source of money. IBRD is lending like a bank with interest rates, and IDA is subsidized money, which is being provided every couple of years or so by larger countries, high-income countries, which are replenishing the IDA funds, and it allows giving money at very, very generous terms to countries. And there's a certain cutoff point in terms of where low income, middle income countries cannot have access to IDA anymore. And so basically this is still lending, but it's highly subsidized lending over the lifetime of the loan. I think it's about, I don't know exact numbers, like 40 or something % subsidy. So that is these two things together is when you say World Bank in the context of the World Bank that is supporting the Ghanaian government in various areas, that is what you mean. IFC is the private sector arm of the World Bank, and it can give loans or it can take equity stake in private businesses. For example, they are looking currently at a couple of pharmaceutical companies in Ghana and have discussions with them and see that they can get them to the point where they are ready to accept investment. No, there are certain requirements to get IFC investment. They want to do bigger things. They also do they also work with smaller entities, but then they're working through middlemen like local banks and so on, which can have maybe a financing facility or some sort of guarantee that they can give loans at lower interest rates. So this is basically what is behind the name World Bank Group. And on the left side, the two blue things, as I mentioned, is what is usually summarized as the World Bank. So now I need to get out of this one here, see whether I can do that. How do I stop sharing? I don't see my band at the bottom anymore. Let me see. Oh, here we go. So I'm switching to a different window. And I have to go. Sorry. Okay. So now you should see the World Bank website, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Awesome.
So when you go to World Bank Group, that's where we open up. I want to tell you very quickly a little bit about the organization here. So when you see down here, experts and leadership, this is the World Bank president and all the, the regional directors and sector directors, but the boards of governors. So the highest institution in the World Bank is the boards of governors. And these are basically finance ministers of about 180 countries. So the World Bank is owned by the countries of this world. There's a few exceptions of countries that are not, basically members of the World Bank. So it's like a cooperative of all the countries that came together after the Second World War to have a joint development institution that can do financing. And these governors, they're meeting once a year and making like the big strategic decisions, basically determining the direction of the World Bank. No? And then underneath you see board of directors, and these are directors, basically board members that are sitting within the World Bank. And not every country has a board member. So the smaller countries, they're represented by one board member that covers a number of countries. So I'm not quite sure West Africa, Ghana, and so on. I'm guessing Ghana is in a pool with some other West African countries represented by one board member who is also delegated by a country government, usually someone from the Ministry of Finance. And you can look at these people as diplomats. So basically, they are like ambassadors. Like your country sends an ambassador to the United States or to France or Germany. They also send someone, or pooling together with other countries, send someone to the World Bank as a person who supervises the daily business. No? So this board is involved in decisions on loans. Whenever there is a new loan to a country, they need to approve it. No? And then experts underneath. And so this is, I'm one of them. I was one of them. So World Bank has a lot of technical people. And when you think about careers also, this is maybe one of the lines of work that you could think of. And then you have the normal World Bank staff, and that is people that are working on executing and implementing projects. And there are many different roles. And we can maybe in the discussion later get a little bit into some ideas, what type of roles are there. So that's very, very little bit information about that, what's behind, what's the type of organization you're dealing with. No? So I'm going into the what we do section here and go a little bit like, so one thing, the central activity of the World Bank, the central purpose is financing. And in financing, there's different ways of how the World Bank is actually giving money to countries. And that's interesting for Ghana, because Ghana is actually using more than one of those financing tools. So there's so-called investment project financing, and that's characterized by the money that is agreed between the government and the World Bank is defined for certain investments. So the country gets this money to purchase things with it. That can be infrastructure, hardware, it can be training, staff costs to some extent, and so on. But all the money is being spent for specific things that have to be pre-agreed in the contract and the loan papers. And then for every single execution, there is a no objection from the World Bank, checking that the country team has followed the procurement rules and many other guidelines. And then it's being signed off, and then the procurement happens and the things get implemented. So that's investment financing. It's relatively rigid in terms of the controls. You have development policy financing. This is a more flexible tool, and I'm not sure. I think it might have been used in Ghana. So for countries that have, better governance, more capacity at the government level, the World Bank can basically put a value to a certain reform, saying, so maybe your, I don't know, just an example, has nothing to do with medicines. Maybe your customs regulation are outdated and this slows down trade, and therefore your economy cannot grow as fast as it could otherwise. So the government makes plans to, to strengthen and accelerate customs clearance, simplifying rules and putting more capacity, maybe a computer system and so on. And they need to have a law change for that to happen. So the development policy financing, this project could basically disburse to the Ministry of Finance as soon as this law has been submitted to the parliament. So that could be a trigger. They're saying, you guys come together, you're using your own systems, your own governance mechanisms in order to do what you want to do. It's maybe a tricky reform. There are people who don't like it. So you have to do a lot of internal work between different ministries and but if you're successful in doing it, then money goes to your Ministry of Finance, and then you can use this money also to basically, recover costs that you had in implementing this policy or preparing this policy. So that is the most liberal, free way of how World Bank supports country, where it really relies on the country systems to take things forward and doesn't look at implementation so much. And then the third one is kind of in between. This is program for results. And this is where money is dispersed when specific things have been implemented. So it's not said in advance what the money is being purchasing. Yeah? The government can use its own money to implement things, and then when the goal is achieved, a measurable goal is achieved, then the money is being dispersed. And I wanted to show you an example for that. Let me see where I find this. I found it quickly yesterday evening. Let me go by country. And this is the project that brought me to Ghana, and where I have been working on. Let's just see. So here's called Primary Healthcare Investment Program. So when you look at this screen here, you see on the left side indicators: annual increase in hypertensive patients diagnosed at the sub-district and community level. This is the baseline. Basically, there was nobody counted. No? This is the target. At the end of this month, the government should show that they have actually diagnosed 120,000 patients at primary care clinics in the country for hypertension. No? This is the last number that is in the system here from March, and you see they were far off. No? It was just like 6,000 out of 120,000. I don't know where the current number is, but what it shows you is here's a very specific goal that can be measured. There's electronic systems with which people report, within the Ghana Health Service. And if this goal is achieved here, then it is a disbursement. And when you look at the project document, you can see how much this is. That could be 1 million, 5 million. I don't know. The overall project amount is about $500 million, out of which actually some money comes from the government. About half comes from the government. The other half comes from the World Bank out of different pots. So this is one of many goals where disbursement happens when the goal is achieved. You see here, down here, can you see my cursor? Increase in indigent persons who are active members of the NHIS. Here you see that the goal is overachieved already. The goal was 300,000. In March last year already, they had 525,000. No? Yeah, but then there are other ones again. I mean, this is the same. I don't know why it shows more than once. So it's this is an example for this P4R, as we call it in our internal acronym language, Program for Results, which kind of forces the government to work towards specific pre-agreed results in order to get the money. And then the money again goes to the treasury. Is not money that goes directly to the institution that has implemented that. That's the role of the government to assure that the funds flow towards the activities that are needed in order to generate more disbursements. No? Okay, so that's just an example. And the person who manages this project either lives in Ghana or in our case, it's a person who lives in Paris, and she comes to Ghana 3-4 times a year and sits down for a week or 2 weeks with the local representatives of the various ministries that are working on it, meets with partners and so on, and sees that she can help to achieve these goals because there's a common interest between the World Bank and the government that these funds are actually being used. So that is one of the core jobs at the World Bank, is that you are a manager of projects. Yes. And these projects could look like this one here, where you end up with a long list of indicators. And all these projects, by the way, are published. So the project papers, if you want to if you want to see what this is here, you can click on documents and you can see, a whole long list of documents where see the implementation results report, the procurement plans, 8 memoirs. This is basically reports from missions and so on. And somewhere is also the original project concept note, which defines the project. It's like more than 100 pages. So that's a little bit insight into the practicalities of working at the World Bank, what the main core business is. Now, maybe just to close off on that, my work and the work of many other experts in various different areas, and I think you are aware that the World Bank is in, let me see. Let's say, I'm just showing here the World Bank is active in many different sectors of the economy. Yeah. So health is just one, and health is not the biggest. So for each of these sectors, there are experts that advise the teams and advise the client, the country, based on their knowledge, based on international experience from other countries. So for many countries, this expert knowledge and having insights from what other countries have done and how it worked out and what came out in terms of results and things to be considered is about as useful as the financing, because countries can also get financing from other sources. No? So there are also many knowledge jobs at the World Bank where people are not managing projects, but basically providing expertise on on certain technical areas. But if you want to make a career, become a manager, become a director later on, and so on, the main line of job is to actually go into operations, meaning to manage World Bank projects and do what I just showed you earlier, with the example of this health, primary care project in Ghana. I would like to maybe take a quick break here and see whether you have any questions on what I shared so far, and then maybe I speak a little bit about HR and careers and so on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So far, so good. To our audience, please, if you have any question you would like to put across that has been said that you didn't understand, or you would like to clarify, like to add on, probably kindly drop me a question. You can raise your hand if you don't mind, and you can ask the question directly yourself, or you put it in the comment section and I read it out, then we get your answer. Do some 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2. Also, if probably you want us to finish with the presentation, probably I'm sure by that time my audience will have their questions ready. Then we would, we would ask them. Okay, wait, we have a question here. So I'm going to read it out. Okay, here I go. In your experience, what are the biggest gaps in pharmaceutical governance or supply chain management that young professionals could help address? Did you get me, Dr. Andreas?
Yeah. Yes. Awesome. I got you. Thank you. That's a big question. Could go on for a long time. So that was kind of my line of work, no, to advise countries in pharmaceutical governance. No? So I mean, I was introduced by your colleague. I don't know. I had a little bit for a moment. There was a break in the sound for me. I don't know whether it was for the same. So I'm a medical doctor by training. I'm not a pharmacist. I learned a lot about pharmaceuticals in the industry, and then I joined the World Bank. I joined the World Bank as a secondee, and then I basically learned I learned a lot while being on the job. And so, in answering your question, see, it depends very much on what type of country you're looking at. When you're going into high income countries, the logistics of supply chain and the payment mechanisms and so on, they're all organized in a way that they function, but the systems are very, very expensive, and the costs are, even in high income countries, Western Europe, US, Canada, Australia, the costs are a big worry for the governments, because costs go up because pharmaceuticals, the industry invents new things. I call this innovation stress on the system, where there's now a new treatment for something that wasn't treatable before, so that adds to the overall cost burden in the health system. And these costs of new drugs are super expensive, as you are aware. And where do you take this money from without constantly increasing the health insurance rates? No? So that's kind of the main challenge in high income countries. In places like Ghana, neighboring countries, and so on, you have still very, very basic issues in terms of supply chain security, which also have to do with money. I mean, it's the poverty in the system, the debts, the late payment, the currency exchange, and so on, that erodes the financial sustainability and leads to, failures of supply chains where the medicines exist, they are there, they are registered, they are maybe in the country, in the private sector, but the public sector cannot dispense them in the clinics because they haven't been delivered, because maybe the bills haven't been paid by that clinic or by the regional medical store, and so on. So these are the core challenges. No, you have issues with corruption, diversion, things get stolen, and so on, result in the private sector. We have seen this in many countries, and then that's where, I mean, in very brief, where I'm saying, okay, whenever I'm working in a country, and that is true for Ghana as well, I always want to have a good look at the private sector and see how could the government make deals with the private sector where you get paid only when you actually deliver the product to the patient. So you have an interest to deliver it to the patient, and we don't have to worry about the product disappearing somewhere on the way. That's kind of, simplified, and there's a lot of issues around that as well. But I think if we want to have change, we have to think more about partnering between public sector and private sector. I just want to stop here because otherwise it gets too long and we don't have time for other questions. Do you want me to speak a little bit just about World Bank careers, and then I keep that short. I can just go and share again, go to the World Bank, back to the World Bank website, and hold on.
Yes, kindly go ahead with the presentation. Thank you.
It says my screen sharing is paused. Okay, I'm just gonna have to start again with the screen sharing. Okay, now you should see it. Let me go back to the top. Here they go on this page at the beginning. It says work with us. Yeah. So just showing you the entry point: careers and job openings, programs and internships. The Young Professionals program is a super attractive program. It's massively oversubscribed, but if you think you're smart, you have an interesting CV, you have you have done things in your life that are where you stand out from the crowd, and you fit into the criteria that you'll find when you read this page, give it a try. This is the kind of fast track to leadership positions in the World Bank. Yeah. Then let me just see whether this is here. So there's at the moment there's a special recruitment drive actually for Western and Central Africa. So I would say take a look at it. So what the World Bank is doing, that's the background, is that they want to put more jobs into the regions. The World Bank has been in my years, has been very headquarter heavy. So you have people, technical people who work with countries, for countries, and they should be close to the country, ideally in the country. But they have to travel from Washington, D.C., and then, you're losing a lot of time. It costs a lot of money. And you have limited exposure, and it's not so easy to communicate and keep the flow going on the project and working with the local officials. No? So in that context, you see they're opening 20 new positions in country offices in Western and Central Africa. I don't know how many of them are in Ghana, but I mean, also I think you are, if you're interested, in working with the World Bank, you must be interested in also working outside your country. World Bank careers usually take you in different places, in particular if you have like a more interesting position with better career options. You will be rotated around. You will see different things, different countries, different forms of governance. You should be fluent in at least two of the big languages, and yeah, then it's trying. It's hard. I mean, there's a lot of applications for jobs in the World Bank, but what I wanted to show you here is that this is the entry point. What at least one of you have been doing, hello Alexis, is to actually work as a consultant for the World Bank on local projects. So that gives you a bit exposure. You will meet some people, you learn a little bit about how to work. Opportunities again are limited, are more ad hoc. You might be lucky and run into someone and get something, but there is not a systematic publication of short-term consultant positions. No? So that's what I recommend in the Washington, D.C. area. World Bank is hosting events where people from outside are allowed in, where they can, attend certain, lectures or so. And maybe the World Bank in Ghana is doing that too, no? Or might be present at some conference. And that's a point where, you can approach them. You can try to meet someone, can learn, can say, do you guys have options for internships or so? So that's a way of, getting acquainted and being seen and potentially having a chance to, grab one of those rare positions that are open for a full-time staff assignment. Overall, World Bank has about a little more than 20,000 full-time employees worldwide. No? Majority, I think, is still in the Washington, D.C. area. So that's World Bank Group. That includes the other things that you saw at the beginning, IFC and MIGA, and this International Center for Credit Arbitrage, how it's called. As this example shows you here, there is a bit of trend towards creating positions in country offices, which will lead to attrition of positions in the headquarters. And the headquarters also is farming out a bit. So there's now a center in Paris. I think they are working on something, some hubs in Africa as well, where they might pull together people that are working in a region rather than on a country only. That may be here the case already, but I don't know. I haven't heard about which place it's going to be if they do this for West Africa. Okay, so I think this is what I wanted to show you. I'll stop sharing for now, and then I would say let's look at the questions. Maybe Josephine, if you can just read the questions to me, or I can also, of course, look at them. That may be
Exactly,
faster.
I will.
Yeah, that's maybe faster.
Okay.
So, okay, I'm looking at the question from Andrew. World Bank is primarily works with nations. Yes, that's right. Can private entities with the country work with the government to help achieve the goal, access financing? Yes, that's possible. So the governments often actually contract with private organizations with CSOs and so on and so forth. Now, I remember a case in Afghanistan where I was working, where medicine supplies in remote areas where that was still when the US and other countries were in Afghanistan with military, and there was war, and certain places were no-go places for anyone from Western countries. They were working with local NGOs to procure medicines and deliver medicines to the population. That's absolutely possible.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Kindly raise your hand. We have a few minutes. Can you raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question? If you'd also want to type it into the comments section. Okay, we have a question here, and I read, what lessons would you share from your experience with young African pharmacists seeking to influence national or regional health policies?
So I would say, this is a very broad question. I mean, I think as an organization, I would recommend that you guys actually, get a little bit interested in health policy, and maybe what you could do is you could do webinars on specific policy areas. No, you can. You have people in the World Bank in Ghana, you have people in WHO in Ghana, and there are health financing experts. There are people who can talk about health insurance. There are people who can talk about primary care, about maternal and child health, about pharmaceutical policy. And if you're interested in that area, and I think you should, because your lobbying also goes towards policy goals. No, I mean, you want to have a professional future, which is satisfactory in terms of, professional fulfillment, but also, of course, in terms of steady income. And so that depends on, on the health system being in good shape. No, that depends on the NHS being having enough cash to be able to pay. Just for example, the question about NHS reimbursing private pharmacies, I think is a very, very important one, because I think it would probably be cheaper for NHS to reimburse private pharmacies rather than, paying for medicines delivered in the public sector. I mean, maybe it's not NHIS, but it's like the overall cost of a package of medicine, let's say, a 1 month supply of antihypertensive drug. The price that the government pays is cheaper, but the overall cost of until this medicine reaches one patient, I would guess, is higher than in the private sector, because there's so much inefficiency in the public system of distribution. When you calculate all the salaries, the maintenance cost of all the facilities, the trucks, and so on, the expired medicines going to waste, financing costs when products are being delivered, are being paid late, and so on. I think from an overall perspective, some sort of a reimbursement system, in particular for NCD medicines and so on, that would make a lot of sense. No? So you could try to, dig into that area and see what is needed for that to happen, for that to work, and how can we work with the NHIS so that both sides can manage to do that. No? Then you can do your lobbying a bit more targeted. No? And for that, you have to have an understanding about what's happening. No? Familiarize yourself with the primary care reforms, which, as I understand, you have these local networks, no, where the local clinic collaborates with drug sellers, pharmacists, private physicians, I think, yeah, and of course also the local hospital, to have to have a more integrated approach to patient care, so that the different places inform each other and work from one medical record with the same patient, rather than everyone has their own medical record and information gets lost. So all these things that make the health system more efficient, they allow more money going into financing pharmaceuticals, which is good for pharmacists. No? So that's how I see that, because pharmaceuticals are among the most cost-effective inputs in the health system.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Andreas Seiter. There's a follow-up question to the previous question asked by Andrew Anand. Yes. Joseph wants to find out if you can kindly outline the procedures for making this kind of contract with respect to the NGOs, the question asked by Andrew.
Well, how to contract with NGOs. So, like, if the government wants to contract with partners under World Bank financing, it depends again on which financing mechanism is used. So if it's investment financing, the World Bank needs to sign off on the contract. It basically has to sign off on the tender. No, when you write out and basically publish, where you say we want to hire a organization for this and this type of work, and these are the qualifications we are looking for. So the World Bank task team leader, which is the name for this project manager, has to sign off on it. The procurement person has to look at it, and so on. Then later, when you actually have the bids and you have evaluated the bids, and you say, okay, based on our evaluation, XYZ organization is the one that we want to pick. Again, there will be a check and a control by the World Bank team, and this may take a week. Yeah, if the government has done a good job and submits the documentation, maybe it takes a week, maybe it takes 2 weeks until they get the no objection from the World Bank, and then it goes through the procurement. So government procurement is notoriously slow and bureaucratic, and that is in order to avoid, government employees to enrich themselves with public money. So there are many controls and committees and so on, and then supervision and so on. But when in terms of consulting procurement, it goes through the usual government procurement channels. No? Small contracts is usually easier. There are certain thresholds, could be like a $50,000 threshold, where the contracting has to be more formalized. And under that, you can do a simpler process where you just ask for a few bids and then you'll make a decision. So these are intricacies of public procurement systems.
It's a holy day, so you might not hear my...
Philip, kindly mute. Kindly mute.
We'll meet again, God willing.
Kindly mute. Thank you very much. Okay. So we have just a minute or two for this question and answer segment. And if anyone has any short question or clarification they would like to make, we have just a few, like 2 minutes. You can raise your hand, you can ask the question directly yourself, or you can type it in the comment section and I'll read it out. Okay, so I believe everything has been addressed. No one has any question they would like to ask. Trying to just buy time for some people. Okay, There's a last question, I believe. I'm going to read it out from Jacob. Does it mean World Bank primarily deals with government through policy formulations?
Mhm. Yeah, both policy formulation, but also just implementation of projects under already agreed policies. No? In some cases, it's easy. The government needs more, needs to invest in power plants, and they know they need so many megawatt capacity, and it's it's already clear that this is needed, and then there's not much policy discussion anymore. So you just go towards implementation. No? But in the health sector, I have seen that basically every project has a policy angle to it. Is either some preparation. So I need to say something else. So the work that I've been doing for the World Bank, I mean, now it's I think over 20 years that I've been working as a staff and now as a consultant, mostly has been financed. It has been financed from two sources. So the bigger source was actually trust funds. So the World Bank gets money from governments. I mean, the Japanese government has been a big donor for this type of trust funds that I benefited from, and then basically the manager for the Ghanaian Health Project can apply for funding from a trust fund and can say, I need like $500,000 for advisory work to prepare my project and to provide policy dialogue, expert input, and so on during the project so that the government knows what to do specifically in certain areas. So this is another source of financing where the money actually stays with the World Bank. The World Bank hires consultants, so the World Bank pays for its own experts so that they can travel and can charge their time. And the money comes from, could be Gates Foundation, could be another government, which is giving this to the World Bank for the particular purpose of providing technical support. That creates many of the expert jobs in the World Bank are sustained by this type of funding. And then every project has at least a little bit money for internal work, which is for the person who manages the project. They need to charge their time to it. But they can also bring in then an expert if they have enough in that money. But usually they need trust fund. Usually the money that they get from the budget of the World Bank for every project is not sufficient to bring in all the expertise that is needed.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Andreas Seiter. I hope I'm pronouncing your name well.
Okay. And you can reach out afterwards. So if there's any questions and so on, I'm happy to answer. So it's fine. You can share my email address with people who are interested in reaching out. But I would also say, if you have, go on the website, search. You find a lot of information. You find a lot of literature, publications, and so on. And you can, many of your questions will be answered if you do. I don't know whether you guys are already familiar with the new artificial intelligence tools.
Yeah, we are getting
You are
there.
not? Yeah, so those that are not, you can just, Google now has basically an AI mode, and I'm using it a lot. And you can put in a complex question, and you're getting actually much faster than when you just search. You're getting the papers, the documents, the websites from which this AI agent has been pulled the information, so you can dig deeper and you can find what you're looking for faster than in the past.
Okay, thank you. We'll do that. We'll share your email if when asked they want to connect to you, then we'll do that. Okay, I'll call upon the chairperson of the ECPG group, Reginald Seiter Brown, to calling upon you on the floor. Kindly come. Yes.
Okay. Josephine, can you hear me? Good evening.
I can hear you perfectly.
Yes.
I believe everyone too.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Good evening, Dr. Andreas. Thank you so much for accepting to chair this very insightful session. I think this is the first of such engagements that the Early Career Pharmaceutical Group is having with the World Bank. We are on a path to ensure that young pharmacists or early career professionals within the pharmaceutical value chain have a sense of what is happening locally and globally. And in that light, we realize that one critical stakeholder in the healthcare domain or in such a situation is the World Bank as an entity. So that was why we made that overture to the World Bank to see firsthand, to try and understand precisely what the World Bank is all about, and possibly have more young pharmacists apply for various career opportunities or internships within the World Bank. I was particularly excited about some points you made about being deliberate about learning some languages, because you may end up operating in multiple countries. So for instance, now that Ghana has, or in Africa, we are talking about African Continental Free Trade Agreement, it will be very critical for a lot of young guys, young pharmacists to be at least be savvy in speaking French, for instance, because we are bounded by Francophone. And then also the fact that we should be also geopolitically savvy, trying to understand the nuances of what pertains to health policy making at both the local, continental, and global levels, respectively. We really want to say thank you, and we hope we will have you for a very long time in Ghana, so that we can always tap from your wealth of knowledge. And the last thing you said about young pharmacists or pharmacists getting involved in critical policy discussion when it comes to the pharmaceutical manufacturing, maternal health, the vaccine conversation ongoing. I think it's something definitely that we will take up and see how we can use that as an opportunity to build capacity for young pharmacists. On this very note, I would want to say a very big thank you on behalf of all our colleagues, and also to thank our colleagues for joining this engagement. Thank you, Dr. Andreas.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for joining. For me, this is very important. I mean, you are the future, and you are influential. I mean, definitely, in particular, if you're well organized and if you are, well educated in your field. So keep it up, keep going, and I'm glad if I kicked off something that then can grow into a regular series of webinars.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that'll be very good.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.